This is the last building episode of the series. The mainland part of the city is done. There's only one place left to build, and that is the side of the space elevator bay in the little valley going into the coastline. So today we are going to wrap up the Asturis series by building the last industrial zone with a harbor, trams and trains. And lastly, we are going to return to where it all started, to the space elevator, because it needs some light upgrade. This is not the last episode in the series though, don't worry. There will of course be all the cinematics and first-person rides and things like that. But not now, now we build. Let's go. This place has one huge advantage, and that is it's completely disconnected from the city. So I can build whatever I want, whatever kind of industry I want, whatever kind of ugly looking, refinery or huge logistics warehouses, these kinds of things. It's not really going to look bad in the city scenery because it's not really in the city. So right from the start, I'm just going to establish huge logistics warehouses, and they are going to serve as some kind of a dividing stripe between some kind of refinery, let's call it, and the harbor. So it's going to be just these logistics warehouses made by Ronix. I already placed them in every entrance to the city, really, so it makes sense to also have a couple of them over here, or have the main ones over here, because this is kind of going to be the largest industrial area of the city. So, that just makes sense. Now, that means that this place needs some kind of entrance using highways. There already is a highway aiming into this area from that stacked bridge going into a tunnel, and as you can see, I'm just doing the other ends of those tunnels. So there needs to be some kind of an interchange. Now, I don't really want to build just an ordinary interchange, you know that already if you've been following the series, so let's actually split the highway directions. Let's make them go so that they just bypass on both sides. They kind of go around the logistics center, which means that I can only do intersections for the surface for one direction in one place, and then the other direction in like a completely remote place. So there really doesn't need to be anything super complicated. In the end, what I built there is, or I'm going to build there, is basically a diamond interchange, just built on much larger area. Now, since this highway is just going through this place, it needs to continue, so it's just going to go along the coastline, which is this part over here, and just goes off the map. I have to admit, when I was building this map, I had huge plans for this part of the city. What I'm building there, the industrial zone, that was actually supposed to be only the harbor, maybe some logistics warehouses, but perhaps even some residential areas further deeper in that valley. And the proper huge industrial zone was supposed to be right here, where I'm just placing this sand. I was kind of thinking a little bit, the lore-wise for the space elevator, I guess, that the space elevator is just like floating or something. Maybe it just needs to float into its position, and then it's going to be anchored, positioned with the beacons and all of that. So I was actually thinking of building like a construction site of a second space elevator right on the other side of that ridge, because I already had the model, kind of. I would just need to make it look like a construction site with procedural objects, somehow just ruin it, make it look half finished or like close to being finished, something like that, in like a dry dock maybe, But that would have been just a huge project, probably would stretch the series like 10 more episodes or 5 more episodes at the very least. And at this point, the rest of the city is already done, the most important bit already done. So yeah, those plans, those are just going to remain in our imagination, how that might have turned out. Well, anyways, so that part of the map was just kind of taken by the sea. I just did some landscaping to get rid of those flatlands on the sides of that ridge, and there's just going to be that coastal highway, and that's that. I guess I could have stretched the railway there as well, but, it's going to be fine to just leave it here and there. Now, here and then, something like that, I don't know the phrase, whatever. Now, this is that entrance to the highway. So, it's kind of a difficult node to put together, as you can see. I'm basically trying to make like two parallel roads go into a single node. That's like the age-old problem of city skylines, really. And before Node Controller, it was close to impossible to put this together, at least so that it looks good. There were some ways with some different networks to do it. I think I was attempting it in Aurelia back in the day with the Shuto highways. These are kind of Shuto highways, not exactly, but you know, still, it's like very difficult to put together. Even with Node Controller, as you could have seen there, with Node Controller renewal, this would have been a piece of cake. But unfortunately, we don't have that in Asturis. I was already talking about it many times. Why? Right, so yeah, it eventually works. There are some glitches with the props, with like the expansion gap props. There is like a grate or something, which doesn't exactly line there, but it's all right otherwise. And what's surprising is that cars are really taking that intersection really well. So all the trucks, you're gonna see that in the cinematics, are just turning nicely. They cannot turn everywhere into all of those roads. They cannot do like some crazy U-turns or something in a way. So, you know, they just need to circle around this place if they want to enter certain ramps or streets. But that's perfectly fine. That's kind of how this place is designed. So eventually, it doesn't even look like there is a highway interchange, right? There are just these elevated highways going right above the streets. Later, I'm going to do some pillars so that, you know, it's not going to originate right from the street below. But it's just very minimalistic, and I kind of like that. It's not really taking attention away from the rest of the industrial zone. That's nice. So, like I said, this logistics warehouse area, that's going to be like a dividing stripe between some sort of refinery and the harbor. And on the sides here, I couldn't fit any more of these logistics warehouses. They are huge. It would not look exactly right. So I'm just going to fill this space with a parking lot. There obviously needs to be a huge parking lot because, well, why not? It's a logistics warehouse. All the trucks there need to be placed, parked somewhere. So why not? And since it's kind of like an industrial area looking place, it might be repetitive quite a lot. Why not? It doesn't really need to be all that super aesthetical. Now, there also needs to be a tram. Well, technically not really, but there's kind of a difficult situation right now with all this infrastructure. So I do have a train and trams actually going into this place. So before I touched this area, I was thinking that the train is going to go like deeper into the valley, but because I thought that there might be some residential areas there, like I already mentioned, and the tram would just like service this entire valley with more stops. But that did not really work, and I really need to have that passenger train go more towards the harbor area. Actually similar to that cargo railway. The cargo obviously needs to go to the harbor because it's going to be bringing in goods to transfer to boats and, you know, vice versa. So the tram is going around the ridge. It's not going in a tunnel, unlike the train, because it's also going into the residential area there on the cliffs. So it is going to go towards the harbor area first. So, well, logically, there's only one possible solution to all this, and that is building some kind of a transfer station, like I'm putting together right here. There are some elevation differences, quite big ones, because, like I said, the tram is just going around the ridge, so it's very tall, and it just needs to go down to the level of the train. So it first goes over the train tracks and then just goes down. Obviously, trains can manage much steeper grades. That's absolutely fine. So eventually they are going to end up parallel. There is just enough space between the train and tram for some kind of a shelter at this point. I was thinking about it. But then I was actually doing some very interesting measurement, well, not measurements, but like field of view well, yeah, I guess I can call it measurements, because I was basically just testing, or well, yeah, testing is a better word. I was testing what you can see from the first person perspective of the tram. And I really need to not obstruct the view a lot, or at all, preferably, because if you are going to be going from inside the industrial zone, then you are going to obviously have the space elevator right in front of you. So if I did some kind of a huge shelter or some kind of tall harbor buildings, things like that, then you could not see, through them. So that area needs to be completely unobstructed. That's the reason why on that particular stop or station, I'm not building any kind of shelter. So I'm only going to place some planters with trees. I'm going to do that later. I don't think I'm even showing that in the time lapse right here because I was kind of fighting this editing process because this project is actually huge. So I think the first cut was something like 40 minutes. So I really needed to shorten it. So some things, some elements I'm kind of omitting, but don't worry, there's extra portion of cinematics to see it all. Well, anyways, so that's the explanation of that station. Now, this tram, it could have ended there, but at the same time, it's a tram, right? So it can actually go further into this industrial area and it can just terminate at a second stop. So that's going to be right here in this refinery, I guess. So for this place, I was actually using quite a lot of those vanilla factories from the industries DLC. A couple of them, the cleaner looking ones, I placed at the harbor area, the Letho Electronics, and what was the other one? I don't even know. The one with the green roof. Car Factory I tried placing as well. For some reason, Car Factory is like the worst looking factory, so I did not really place it. The refinery is looking really nice. It's that, technical stuff, all the pipes and tanks and everything that I really like using. So obviously I had to use the refinery. I think I used it 3 times in this place just to have like a huge, industrial looking place. I'm going to detail it pretty much exactly the same way as I did that underground, area, the scar. So with even the flames going from some of the chimneys and obviously the smoke, the procedural objects, effects, and all kinds of stains on the surfaces, containers here and there, parked trucks, and lots of these tanks all around. So eventually it was not really planned, but just by using the good looking assets, it somehow made this place look just refinery, something like that. Well, anyways, so it's a refinery. Yeah, it's a refinery, whatever. Maybe for some kind of futuristic fuel, maybe not our fuel like we are used to. So this stop, at first I had the car factory over here. It was a little bit differently shaped. It had like a courtyard and I was thinking I'm going to do like a tram loop inside of it. I got rid of that and I did not really have any good looking geometry for a loop. So I decided for a reversible tram stop, which is going to be fine. There's a problem. I must pay attention to not do reversible stations on both ends of a line because the trams would be just going like back and forth without turning around. And that might not exactly work for the first person ride. Unfortunately, the line that goes through the city center, which is most likely actually going to be in the next Asturis episode, which is going to be the tram ride of that line, it actually has that. So I'm going to have to somehow force the trams to like half of them to not be turned, half of them be turned, because the first person camera is always going to move to the front vehicle. And the front vehicle is not turning. Yeah, it's not switching at this stop. So for one direction it would be working, for the other it would not. So yeah, preferably it would be best to just have it different. Well, anyway, so that's that. Now, let's do the effects. I'm just copy-pasting them from that previous area. So even this like light smoke, the dark smoke, and the fire. Is this a realistic effect? I don't care, honestly. Now, then I'm going to do these kind of like steam rising from these larger pools. And I'm going to do these like tiny smoke effects coming from various pipes and just on the ground. And, just make it look like that. Unfortunately, I already talked about it before. These kinds of effects, they disappear at a fairly short distance, and you cannot really control that with any settings for like, the ultimate level of detail or the procedural objects render distance. They just disappear. So in some cinematics from like further away, you're not going to see these effects, which is a shame, especially in the night shots, because the fire in the distance would be quite nice to see. But well, unfortunately, it's only going to be up close. The refinery buildings were not complicated enough, so I improved them with many more tanks and pipes and all these ventilations and ACs and whatever. I even used some elements from the Dole nuclear power plant. I downloaded a whole bunch of assets, obviously, for that, for Altengrad, so I made use of it even in here. Now, these are the pillars. I just copy-pasted them from the other side of the ridge to the left. So at the other end of that stacked bridge, I had these already prepared there. So, no problem, just recycling it. Somewhere they have this reversed U shape because they can just go around the ramp. But somewhere it doesn't really make sense to actually obstruct vertically the ramp. So somewhere there are just going to be these L shapes, and further to the edges they can be just normal pillars. Right, so that was that refinery part of the entire project, and I guess the interchanges and logistics center. And now I'm going to do the harbor. I'm just going to copy paste these networks from the other side of the space elevator bay together with those cranes, because there needs to be some sort of continuity between these projects, or at least it makes sense that there must be. So I'm just going to use those same elements. Now that's going to define the coastline, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, because it's just going to allow me to do things more interesting. The cargo railway that's going into this place, it actually first needs to go on the stacked bridge. I think it's going on the... Yeah, now I'm not sure. On the bottom level or on the second level? I don't know, but the point is that it's actually very tall above that river. It then goes into the tunnel. It's going down roughly with like 1%, 1.5% grade, but it's still arriving into the harbor very, very high. So it was not possible to put it all the way down to that first pier level, like it is on the other side of the bay. So I had to create some kind of stairs with those pier networks, and the railway is actually going on the topmost one, on the third one, because the network is not deep enough. Yeah, so I had to use 3, not just 2. Now, then I was using just the scaling of the crane objects, and I just made the cranes kind of oversized so that they might be able to pick up cargo from all 3 levels, so even from the trains, and just load it down to the ships. So I'm thinking that trucks can go on the first and second level, and trains are just going to be doing their thing from the topmost level. That kind of actually makes sense, like capacity-wise or something like that. Some cranes can be operating the trains, some can be unloading the trucks, and they don't really need to wait for each other. Now, there are also going to be these perpendicular piers, just like on the other side, even though this harbor is going to be completely for cargo. I'm not going to do any kind of passenger one. That's just going to be taken care of on the other side. This harbor obviously needs to be much larger because, the area, the industrial space is much larger, so that only makes sense. Now, what are we going to do next? So at this point, I was just trying to fill the outside of these piers. So using some kind of buildings, preferably buildings that I haven't used before, at least on the other side of the bay. So I was just constantly looking there. Then I'm just going to do these, for example, water pumps, again, from the Dole nuclear power plant pack. So they might be pumping water from the sea to the refinery or some kind of industry in there. It's just a nice detail. I'm gonna repeat it on the opposite side because why not? It just looks nice. Most of the area on the upper levels of the industrial place, let's say, I'm just going to cover with some kind of parking lots for just more trucks, more cargo vehicles just parked waiting for their turn. And I'm also going to do some of these, vertical elements, vertical things here and there. By the way, I also placed here that GM building. It's a nice looking building. It kind of looks like, it is headquarters in real life too, but it looks very fitting for this place. So on the other side of the bay, we also have like a tower out of nowhere, something like that. So in here, why not repeat that same thing? Even though it's a different tower, of course, much bigger one because it's a bigger industrial place. I'm later going to put the Orbital Air logo on it. So maybe it's actually a headquarters of the the company that's managing the space elevator or something like that. Makes sense to be here because this harbor is intended primarily to handle cargo going into the space elevator. So a lot of these buildings around here are probably manufacturing places for like preparing materials, preparing even some, electronics maybe or things like that that are just going to be transported to orbit later. So yeah, it's a very important place. This one, it's not just an ordinary harbor which is just accepting all kinds of goods that later go in the city. No. This one is much more important than that. This important road was kind of very clearly or very critical, critical, not clear, critical to be built because it was completely disconnected before I just finished it right now, and it was the only access point to that cliffside residential places there. The only way to access that was through the tram, but for a really long time, those commercial buildings up there, they were screaming for not enough cargo because the only road entrance was never completed until now. So a couple more parking lots here and there just to fill some awkward spaces around the station, and I'm just using exactly the same technique. So as you can see, I'm mostly skipping through that. So using the curbless road, clipping networks, and asphalt. It works like a charm, and you can even make it functional if you really wanted to. If you're building it on like a side of some kind of a cliff and you're filling the rest of the place with like artificial terrain, it's not exactly going to work, but on a flat land like that, it works perfectly. I'm still going to just detail the parking lots with prop vehicles because honestly, I just cannot be bothered just waiting for the natural parking lots to fill. I'm mostly using the parking lots as decorations. I know it sounds weird, but it is what it is. I just like doing that in Asturis. So down here in the harbor, the usual detailing for a harbor, I guess. So I'm just copy pasting these containers straight from the space elevator because, like I said, it's the space elevator harbor. So all the same cargo, all the same color palette of the cargo that is on the space elevator that I built in the first episode, it obviously must be seen over here because it's the same thing. It's the same chain in that entire, orbital transportation mechanics or, that kind of logistics. So, oh yeah, I did not show it in the time lapse, I guess, but I built the beacon right on the edge, on the tip of that longest pier right here. So that's going to be the third beacon in the city. The first one, that's near the beach in the downtown. That's where the tram station actually is. And the second one, that was just built on like a little cliff on the other side of the bay, together with that first harbor project. So this is finally the third and last beacon that's just going to guide the space elevator. Its purpose is to make sure the space elevator is not moving. It's like exactly in the position where it needs to be. Right. This place needed lots of greenery. This entire area, this entire valley is enclosed in like very deep forests, in like a huge jungle. So I was even cranking that density setting in the tree brush, whatever it's called, I forgot. And then I just put trees like very close to all of these buildings and even between all the decorative rocks and just everywhere. In every empty space, I just placed a lot of trees. Now, this is interesting, actually, and it's going to lead us back to the space elevator. So this railway, it's going to go through here into this building where it's going to steeply go down underground below the water and into the space elevator. And that's going to lead us to the place where it all began, the space elevator. When I was building it, I did not really know that Asturis is just going to turn into this, hugely lit city. And the space elevator was kind of like there in the corner, not exactly visible too much. We need to fix that. At the very least, I need to put lights in all of these beacons on all the tips of the star of the harbor. And then I'm just going to do something with like accenting all the edges and the circles and everything. Now, the reason for doing that railway is that, unfortunately, the last update to City Skylines 1, kind of like a nice farewell, it broke the barges mod. So that's kind of a very critical mod that really was required for this entire space elevator thingy, industrial, thing to do its thing, to work, to have the barges just, transporting cargo back and forth, even through the rivers. We don't have that anymore, unfortunately, so at least I wanted to bring in cargo with the railways. I could not really get those trains to spawn to go there for some reason, but then again, there is like a proper big ship harbor actually on one of the tips of the bottom level of the space elevator, and that's apparently all that takes, because the industry down there doesn't require many more cargo. So I don't know, for some reason it works. As you can see, even over here, it doesn't complain about lack of raw materials. So yeah, that's that. Unfortunately, we won't have a cargo train going through that harbor, but it's all right. Anyways, that's it. That's the Asturis city completely done. Nothing else to build anymore. It's just done. It's just complete. Yeah. It's weird to say it. It's over. It's over. We have finished the city, so now all that's left is to take a look at it, thoroughly take a look at it. So these are the cinematics of today's project, but obviously there are going to be many more cinematics looking at the entire city. And of course, there will be the first-person rides that are going to just show you the city from a completely different perspective that you could not have seen in the series just yet. I have not decided yet how exactly I'm going to do the next first-person ride. I mean, I would really like to do it so that the city has all the night lights on, which means gameplay-wise, I kind of need to do it already during the night. But I was thinking of doing it more like towards the dusk or something, so it's not like complete night, so you can see some sky a little, so you can make out the skyline of the city against the sky, but it's actually really difficult to dial in like nice looking night views. Look at all the traffic in here. Look at all the trucks there on the right, just waiting in that intersection. That's really nice to see. I know that it sounds weird because, it's traffic. It's kind of like a traffic jam, but we finally have lots of traffic in Asturis. It's just nice to see. I'm sorry. Well, anyways, this is that cinematic that I was talking about. The entire city. It's done. It's done, isn't it? Those solar farms there towards the back, they kind of look like the continuation of the sea, but now when the camera moves a little closer, you can make out the individual lines of the solar arrays. So that's actually a really interesting effect, how it's reflecting the sun, even at this distance. This is the night shot, and yeah, I'm kind of satisfied with the space elevator. I really did not want to overdo it too much. I only wanted to highlight the main shape of it. I was thinking of also highlighting the vertical columns, the one that are just a little bit angled, but I did not really have any luck doing that, and it would actually highlight the fact that it's not particularly high poly, So this is okay, just highlighting the circles. And I was heavily playing with fog settings in this particular one to make it look like a very foggy night, because it's actually going to just hide the edge of the map. I think this looks okay. Yeah, this looks okay. It's like maybe early or very late night, almost morning, where some sunlight is already in the air, but there's like a very heavy fog that's just diluting the light. And I also played with like heavy bloom in these particular shots. I actually kind of like it. Maybe I'm going to do the first-person ride with something similar to this. Well, anyway, guys, that's it. That's the Asturis city and the series completely built. Like I said, more episodes to come where we are just going to observe the city, look at all the little details through the first-person rides and all of that. Oh yeah, look at that. There is a ship actually bringing in raw materials right now from outside of the map to the space elevator. Well, anyway, that's going to be all for this one. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here throughout the series. And the ride doesn't end, of course. It will continue with something else. Guys, if you like this episode, please do all the things below it. You know the drill. I'm not going to repeat it today. And huge thanks to all the channel members. Thank you so much for your support. Take care. Goodbye.